I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zayas Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark.
Welcome, everybody, to our next episode of Arcane Mark. Arcane Mark Asks, today featuring editor Patrick Hurley. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, Linda. Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome. Glad to have you. We had some interesting tech difficulties, and now we're here.
Yes. It was worth the wait. So let's get started with our usual first question. So first is, how did you get started playing tabletop RPGs and or Pathfinder?
Yeah, so I don't remember what year, but my godmother picked me up a D&D second edition, and that's how I started. I remember having to figure out THAC0, and I think I could still do it. So yeah, that was when I started back then.
All right. Are you glad you don't have to still do THAC0?
Oh my God. Yes. I remember when I took a break a year or two, and then when I got back into it, I think it was 3.5 in Pathfinder, and I was like, oh, this is so much easier.
Yeah, for me, my experience with second edition was after being well versed in third, so then being like THAC0, it's like, wait, this is backwards. I don't understand.
I think the only game Linda played of second edition was when we were fans at PaizoCon. Ed Greenwood was running a second edition game in the Forgotten Realms that we played. So that's the only second edition Linda's ever played.
That's true, but I was like, I've never played this game, and I'm kind of worried about looking stupid, but I'm not going to pass up an opportunity to play with Ed Greenwood, so I'm just going to pretend like I know what I'm doing. Mark, give me a quick second edition primer.
It came in handy because I never played the Baldur's Gate computer games, but I downloaded it on my iPad, and I was like, wait a minute, I know these rules.
There you go. All right, so our second question that we always ask after how you got started with Pathfinder or RPGs is, how did you come to work at Paizo? Tell us the story. It's different for everyone.
Yeah, so I had been working for a book publisher for a little while when I moved out to Seattle, and then moved on from there and was just doing various editing jobs. And I had set up an alert for editing, and then I put in like various keywords like science fiction, fantasy, things like that, because that sort of was my bailiwick. And then when I saw the opportunity, I jumped on it and heard from Judy Bauer, our managing editor, and took the test. And I think I'd had some experience with some well-known IP of the science fiction and fantasy persuasion, and I think that helped. But yeah, took the test and got started as soon as I don't even think I gave 2 weeks notice. I think it was like a week notice.
There you go.
What were you doing before?
Well, the job I had right before this one, it was a nice company, but it was editing and marketing for a real estate place. So not quite as fun.
Still great use of bailiwick, though.
Yes.
Did any of the executives hear about some of the properties that you had worked with and get excited about that?
I think, yeah, if you've ever worked on something like Star Wars or any Disney thing, or like I also did a writing workshop with the Game of Thrones author George Martin, the Taos Toolbox, Walter John Williams, and Nancy Cook. I have to mention them. And you put that stuff on your resume because, pretty good experience. So yep. I think they might have. I know Judy knew about it because when we talked, she was mentioning that.
You can't just drop a sentence like that, oh yeah, I worked with Star Wars and Disney, and I did a writing workshop with George R. R. Martin, and then just move on. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So there's this every year. I can tell you about the workshop. It's kind of cool. It's called the Taos Toolbox Writers Workshop. The main teachers are Walter John Williams and Nancy Kress, and George Martin does 2 or 1 day lectures. It's a 2-week workshop. It's so helpful because they're all award-winning authors. They've all written for their own books, and then they've written for things like Star Wars. George Martin, I think, wrote for that Game of Thrones series.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Some people have heard of it.
Do his two one-day lectures just take a week and you have to wait a while to get the lecture?
It's a lecture series. It continues each year.
The joke was before he came to lecture, I asked Nancy, I'm like, so Nancy, all the students we've agreed we're all going to ask him one at a time when the next book's coming. She did not like that joke.
She has to get him to keep coming.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, and he was a delight, and Nancy, I mean, she's actually in the Seattle area. She's just a fantastic author, and of short stories and novels, and Walter John Williams, if you ever read his Quillifer Second World Fantasy, it's really fun, so.
Awesome. So you edit and you also write your own original content?
Yeah, I've had, I think, about a couple dozen short stories published. My first novel is I'm working on it with my agent. I've also written some flash fiction for Paizo. I had a flash fiction Pathfinder story come out in January, and then actually just yesterday I had my first Starfinder flash. Well, actually it was a 2000 word story come out. So yeah, no, I love writing in these worlds, and it's kind of nice. Like, it's nice to be able to do both. And I actually think one skill helps the other. So, like, you know, there are times where I'm in writing mode. I'm like, I need to fix this sentence, so I have to put my editor hat on, and vice versa. Like, if I'm editing something, I'm like, how do I shorten this so it fits within this space or makes more sense? And, you know, so yeah.
So, do you have a favorite?
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, do you have a favorite short story that you've worked on?
One of my own favorites?
Yes, one of the ones you've written. Do you have a favorite?
You're asking him to pick his favorite? That's like asking someone to pick their favorite child.
I know. I'm a terrible person.
There's one that's been published as a print story, well, online print, and then also as a podcast. It's called The Farm Girl and the Kitsune. And I really like that one. It's kind of dark, like, but I thought it was a pretty good story.
I am looking for a link for where somebody could possibly check that out. You already
found it at it's at the Overcast.
The online e-zine. And then you could also listen to it on the podcast, The Overcast. I
found the Overcast link. So I've just sent it to everybody in chat. There we go. Just a warning, there's some dark stuff in there. It's a dark fantasy, but I think it has a good ending. Well, I mean, the description says, in a land far away where dragon sages watch the stars and turtle gods rule the rivers, there was a girl named Ishiko, the only child of a prosperous farmer. She was small and quick, taking after her father, and smart and stubborn, taking after her mother. I guess that doesn't tell you immediately that it's going to be dark. So
well, you know, it's good to give the warning, yes. And is there a good, and if people want to follow you in general, I know you said that you have a Twitter account. Is that the best place for people to follow you now?
Twitter account is my old the first part of my old college email address. It's it's HURLEPAT.
We've just linked that in the chat.
I linked that too. I sent a tweet about it before too.
Oh, awesome!
It's at Hurlpat.
Yep. There's too many Patrick Hurleys. I had to do something a little original.
And where did you say that people could find the if they wanted to read the Farm Girl and the Kitsune as opposed to listening?
The online magazine. It's called Abyss and Apex.
All right, let's see. Oh, Abyss, Apex. I see that also. In fact,
yeah, and you can read the text of the story there, and they have little Kitsune art, like little bit art and stuff.
Boom! I have linked that as well.
Very cool. Resist the temptation to read it right now.
Maybe I won't resist the temptation.
And I just have to do the interview by myself. That's fine. That's fine. Everything's fine.
I could just chime in every once in a while. Oh my goodness, what a twist!
Yes, exactly. So, And you said you're working on a novel now. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Oh, sure. The novel's called Granters, and the elevator pitch is Harry Potter meets The Office.
Ooh, that's cool.
The longer explanation is the main character and his team, they're wish consultants. So they get hired by granters, demons, Ifrit, fairy godmothers, devils, genies, people who grant wishes. They hire the main character to find the loophole in a wish so they can make it into a good story.
That sounds really awesome.
Uh-huh.
It was a lot of fun to write. And I'm in the middle of revisions, and it's one of those. Actually, the Kitsune story was originally part of that book, but I took out the wish consulting part because I thought it made a good standalone.
Oh, because the farm girl makes a wish with the Kitsune, and they originally went to the consultants.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That tracks.
Well, let us know when you know like when that's gonna come out or where we might find it and things like that.
Oh, I will. The whole world will know.
But is the farm girl and the Kitsune in the greater Granters expanded cinematic universe? Does it take place in
there? I
there?
also did a story about the revenge of the Giving Tree's daughter that got cut from the Granters book but got published as a standalone story as well. So there are multiple.
So they are.
There we go.
All right.
That sounds really cool. I want to read your book.
Yeah, the Giving Tree's daughter one is a little more humorous. It's a little less dark.
Okay. So speaking of greater cinematic universes, what is something that people who know a little bit about editing for Paizo might not expect about editing for a sort of a big brand like Star Wars, Marvel, or Star Trek?
Well, let's just say before The Force Awakens came out, I had several people who would try to buy me drinks to get me to spill secrets, and Disney is very, not that Paizo says we could say whatever we want, but Disney is very scary about guarding their secrets.
Well, have you seen the most recent Simpsons? So Bart sees basically their version of Infinity Wars comes out, and then Bart sees Endgame early because an actor thinks he's a Make-A-Wish kid, and he is basically trying to spoil it to everyone else in order to get stuff, and then at the end, Disney puts him into a virtual reality suit and makes him think the characters in the series are real and are dying because he gave spoilers. And then it shows that then the executives are they can live for now when he decides not to give spoilers, and it shows a little bomb in their house that has a disarmed, but the D is the D from Disney, and it plays doo 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 doo.
That's intense.
So is that accurate? Are you saying that's accurate?
It feels like there's a kernel of truth. So it was cool though, because May 4th, this was the publisher was called Becker and Mayer. They're now Quarto Seattle, and May 4th would be our Star Wars brainstorming books day, and that was pretty fun.
So you literally did that on May 4th?
We did a Bounty Hunter's Handbook, which I wish we had waited to do until now.
Bounty
Hunter's Handbook? I think
with the Mandalorian? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how the Mandalorian would make it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How to have an adorable puppet.
They did, sorry, what?
How to have an adorable puppet that breaks the internet in terms of people trying to make merch before Disney puts out official merch. The book.
Oh my gosh. I remember actually thinking about contacting an old friend when I saw Baby Yoda, because I was like, you guys have to be doing several different things with Baby Yoda. I can't say.
I'm sure they can't say anything to you because of that.
But it was fun, and working on Marvel books, same thing. There was I can tell you a story about that. I found some continuity errors in an Avenger tie-ins book with the comics, and I fixed them. And I got to call my parents and tell them, you know how you told me reading comics was a waste of time and I should focus on more practical reading? And I was like, reading comics is great.
There you go. If you hadn't read so many comics growing up, you wouldn't have been able to notice that continuity error as easily.
So can you talk about some of the specific projects that you worked on?
Oh, so, let's see. I helped edit the Star Trek Encyclopedia, which is like this big. I worked on the Avengers Vault source book. I worked on several Force Awakens droids, ships tie-in books. I worked on an Avengers weapon book. I did a little fact-checking on the Game of Thrones World of Ice and Fire. I'm trying to think of some other fun ones. I did a little bit of, there was an Imperial Handbook, which was like the in-world book that all stormtroopers supposedly got. Did a little work on that. So, yeah, some pretty fun stuff.
So, how big is this universe of products that support these big properties? Because when you mention all those, like,
I mean, well, you know, it's one of those things where kind of, I think Paizo can relate to this a little. You'll do the simple version of a book, like the Book of Sith, which is like the Emperor's copy of the history of the Sith. But then you would do this really high-end where there's a whole Sith holocron that you press a button and lights glow and there's hissing and the book comes out. So there was kind of the boutique option and then, you know, for people who just want to read it option.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. The smoke literally comes out of the book.
We wanted to do a Buffy tie-in. Sorry, go ahead.
Or, no, I was asking, the smoke really comes out of the book when you just open it?
Well,
do you have to refill
it? But there is a hissing noise.
Okay.
I actually have a contributor copy at my house. So if you guys are ever in downtown Seattle, you can take the test of the set.
Okay.
Ooh.
So you said you were trying to do a Buffy tie-in?
Oh yeah, they tried to do, well, and they actually ended up doing a journal, an in-world journal from the point of view of Giles, the Watcher.
Right.
Yeah.
But then there's in the thing there's all these annotations from like Buffy and other people like commenting on his journal and stuff like that.
Oh, and comments on the side from different characters in the setting. Kind of like the Dresden Files RPG that had all of the little comments from different characters who were supposedly reading it.
I really appreciate that kind of thing.
Oh, it was cool. The one that we're sad we never got a chance to do because they pulled out was we were going to do it for Firefly. We were going to have the medical journals of Simon Tam.
Huh.
Ooh, that would.
But
cool.
It never. The rights were in a weird place, so we never could do it. So yeah.
Well, I guess that makes sense given that they had canceled it like by the time it got popular.
So how did you get into?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, I was going to change the subject slightly.
I was just going to say that these... Oh, yeah, how did I get into what now?
Yeah. How did you get into getting to work on these sort of famous properties?
Well, it was kind of a little luck and a little bit of just working in publishing for a while. I started working at the Great Books Foundation in Chicago, and because it was a nonprofit publisher, I got a little experience in, like, book design, I had a lot of experience in editing, but book design, layout, cover design, and then our rights manager left, so I actually had to become our permissions person.
Oh, wow.
So I had all these hats, and I was looking to move to Seattle because at the time I was dating someone who lived here. Mm-hmm. And I saw this Becker and Mayer job, and I didn't know what they worked on. they just kind of said we publish a variety of projects. And my actual team, we worked a lot with Amazon Publishing, but when they found out that I kind of had grown up loving all of these things fanatically, it was just sort of like, well, do you want to kind of work on these teams too? And I was like, please.
So this is.
I would actually, it was funny, while I was there, I'd always ask them, why don't we do any D&D tie-ins? And they're like, oh, those are different publishers or something.
Ah. Mm-hmm. Well, you showed them. Now you're working at Paizo. So well, you're the tie-in.
Surprising amount of. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying you're the tie-in.
I made it. Well, there's a lot of. I've noticed I've met a lot of editors who have who've worked for WizKids and other gaming companies while I was at Becker and Mayer. There seemed to be.
WizKids, the miniatures company that also does like miniatures based games. So like the ones who make the Pathfinder miniatures. Yeah.
Yeah, WizKids.
Mhm.
Yeah, my old boss actually, she was, because they also did a whole series of BattleTech or Robotech paperbacks, and she was like the editorial lead on all of those books.
Cool.
Yeah.
I guess
it was just kind of, Seattle's the place for this kind of thing, I think. Like, there's so many imaginative people here. It's awesome.
I guess it's a small world in some of these geek fandoms where there's a lot of overlap between things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I've not been in it, but my roommate is. Clarion West takes place here. It's a 6-week writing workshop, and they have some really pretty famous writers who teach in it. And a lot of the students who go to it actually end up living in the city. So.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, actually, I have a Clarion West graduate friend who I introduced to Liz Little because he was just nominated for a Nebula nominee. He's from India, and she was looking for writers who had, knowledge of that culture. Mm-hmm. And I was like, there you go.
Awesome. So how do people get into that workshop if that's something they'd be interested in doing? Is that like an invitation-only thing, something people apply for?
You have to apply for it. Usually, I would say several hundred people apply, and they only have 18 spots.
Oh, wow. So it's pretty selective.
6 weeks, so typically people are a little younger, or they have more flexibility, but there's people of all ages. It's not cheap, but there are some really good scholarships to apply.
I'm guessing
my roommate was trying to convince me to apply this year because he went, and I'm like, no, I just started at Paizo. I'm not leaving for 6 weeks.
Don't leave us. The deadlines, they loom. So loomingly.
Yeah.
Like, in theory, if you capped out all of your vacation days and all of your sick days and had some comp days, mm-hmm. you could theoretically have 6 weeks banked up.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, but I would hate to do that in the middle of summer.
Yeah, no, that would be really, really bad.
You not doing that.
Paizo's not going to let you take those weeks off, but
not this time, certainly not.
I mean, I have almost like 9 weeks banked up, but I can't take them.
Yeah. Well, you take your days off like, oh, I've reached my cap and I'm not earning anything. I guess I can take one day off. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yep.
That's one thing I love about here is that people just, I mean, I'll see people staying late to play games and people working on things. It's not because, oh, I have to. It's because, like, yeah, no, I love doing this.
Yeah, it's fun to get to game with our coworkers when I haven't had time to do an evening game in a while, and it can be a little tricky to get into those. So I've been with, like, being in the exact timing when you're like, oh, yes, I have time to commit to a game. So, I've been playing some of the Pathfinder Adventure card game at lunch, and that's been...
Oh, nice.
That's been something that fits better to the schedule. So, yeah, we're actually getting near the end of the one that we're on now, so we'll probably be looking to start a new game soon, and then we'll be recruiting new players. So, if that interests you, Patrick, then you don't have to know how to play.
I have yet to play the card game.
we'd be happy to teach you.
It takes longer than you might expect, especially as it gets towards the end of the card game. It gets more complicated. But actually, we're having an episode about teaching how to play the card game on March 17th also.
That's right. So you could also watch our episode if you want.
Sure thing. It's March 17th, so I'll be doing St. Patrick's Day, so I'll be doing it with the Guinness, but I'll definitely.
There you go.
There you go. Awesome.
Maybe that's the best way to learn how to play the adventure card game.
Yeah, I guess we should wear green for that episode.
There we go. Or just, like, be pinched constantly throughout the episode.
I vote against that option because, hey, if Bit is the only other person here, I'd be the recipient of all the pinching, and I disapprove of this plan. Stop it! No!
That's awesome.
All right. So let's see if there are any questions from chat. It looks like they have not asked any questions yet. They're probably all reading the Farm Girl and the Kitsune, if I'm going to be honest, as soon as I linked it.
Also, we generally haven't left pauses in our speech here. We've been pretty active.
Oh, no, except for when we did have those sort of like polite after you moments.
Where you start talking.
Yep. All right, yeah.
I know I had one.
Alftera was too mesmerized by your stories and did not say anything, according to Alftera.
Yes, because one of the things that really interests me is how few people at Paizo were, maybe some of us thought when we were little kids, hey, we want to get into games, but like by the time we were teenagers or whatever, how few of us actually thought, yes, this is going to be the course of my career. I'm going to be working in games. I'm going to be working in fantasy. I'm going to be working in science fiction, and that's going to be my career. So for you, was it really that moment when you had that job, and then they were saying, hey, would you like to? We now we see you're interested in these sorts of things. Would you like to work on them? Was that the first time you thought, oh yeah, I can have fantasy and science fiction be a part of my career?
Yeah, there had always been this doubt or this worry, like, oh, maybe you just have to be really good, and I don't know if I'm qualified, and then I was just at Becker and I was just at this publisher, and they had kind of said like, oh, you know this stuff? Do you want to go to a brainstorming session? I'm like, well, am I allowed to? And they're like, yeah, we like everyone to go in it, especially if you're a fan of the property we're working on. And it was like that moment in a movie where like the golden light shined down. Oh.
There you go.
And yeah, and I'd always been writing stuff, but one of the things I believe there is you can always get better, and just working on those books and continuing to practice, I started to see like, oh, my own writing improved, the characters became more interesting, and kind of instinct for structure and description and stuff started to click a little better. And I'm still not, I still think you always should try to always improve. Like there's never a point where I think even like the most successful writers in the genre still are trying to better themselves, and I think that's important. Like it's one of the things I notice here working with the editing team and all the teams. There's really kind of a commitment to making the story and the adventure as good as it can possibly be, which I really like.
Yeah, we do it as good as it can possibly be, given all the other constraints.
Yes. With the deadlines, right?
Yes, with the deadlines.
But I mean, that's definitely something that I've really enjoyed about working at Paizo is that I've been there for about 5 years now, but I still can feel that there's not a month that goes by when I don't get a chance to learn new skills. And to feel that I've become a better developer, or that I've learned how to do some other completely unrelated thing that I never thought I would be doing, like running auditions. That's a thing that you learn how to do, and project management.
Yeah, running voice acting auditions.
Running voice acting auditions, project management, all sorts of stuff. So that I never would have expected. So I hope that continues to be the case for you at Paizo. because it's
Yeah, me too.
really
I mean, there's just moments where I'll be reading over the description or editing a monster from possibly an upcoming bestiary or something else, and I'm just like, I can't believe I get to do that. We paid to do this.
They do know about the upcoming bestiary too.
Yes, that has been announced.
Yes.
Nice.
You might be surprised what things have not been announced.
When I started.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember you coming with Bestiary 2 questions and saying like, "Oh yeah, these are my first designer questions."
Yeah, I didn't realize that I should number the questions if I have a lot of them.
Well, it depends on what style you want to do it, because you can do the Liz style and just have 8 to 10 questions that each have 10 sub questions instead of having numbering them 1 to 80. Or you can do more of the style of, I don't know, because I know Leo one time wanted to do that, but it got changed by teamwork into 1 to 80. So I'm not sure who the person who's indicative of the just 1 to 80 style is, but you could be that style if you want.
Question numbers are very useful though, because people can't always get back to you right away, and then when they're going through it, it's a lot easier to say like number 2 this thing, as opposed to that question you were asking about the Clip-Off. No, not the Clip-Off who appears on page 70. The Clip-Off who appears on page 74. I'm talking about this one in this response. Well, in part because at least I found with editor questions that when we've messed something up, it's not that unlikely that we've messed up a parallel thing on some other page, and keeping that straight is important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We call it casting the consistify spell.
There you go.
Yes, consistify. It's a very important... I've used the phrase consistentize, but consistify is definitely easier to say.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't know if I would ever do an 80-part question. I'd be scared. I'd be like, I'm going to get my coffee poisoned.
Oh no, it was 80 total things that were like 10 8-part questions.
Oh my god.
As opposed, it was not one 80-part question.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But we've definitely had those before sent over to design and unpicked those questions and found out just how much stuff really needed to be clarified.
Yeah.
What I've found is, like, if I have questions, I try to get them all typed up and then have something to edit, because I'm like, this is something I can ask them and then do work whenever they have time to get back to me, so I'm not waiting like with bated breath.
Right.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good from a pipeline standpoint in terms of workflow.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of times it's stuff that, what I've noticed a lot of times with our questions between departments, it's things where you might have an idea of what the answer is, but we just want to make sure, or like, it could be a couple, but
yeah,
I mean, honestly, the stuff's in, pretty good shape, and like,
I always find it kind of funny when I get a question from Edit where it's like, where I'll say something and they're like, "Did you mean this thing?" And it's, I was like, "I think maybe you meant this thing. Is this what you meant?" And then my answer is like, "Yes, of course that's what I meant. I'm dumb." You're so polite for assuming that maybe I had something that I was going for here, but no, I was just wrong. Just what you said, that's good. Yes, please.
Sometimes we think that there might be some genius thing that we're missing, so we're like, well, maybe they have some, esoteric system or naming thing that I've never heard of.
Sometimes there is.
Sometimes there is.
Yeah.
But usually we just appreciate the credit for.
So, sometimes there's like Leo came to me with a thing that at first I thought it was just randomly different in one of them, where he was like, usually this says in each one that it's a +1 bonus or a +2 bonus, but this one says in the main item entry that it was that it has a bonus, and then in each item it says the bonus is +1, the bonus is +2, the bonus is +3. And then I discovered that there was a reason, which is that normally there's a version that has no bonus, but that the item he brought me started at a higher level and always had a bonus. And that's why it said there was always a bonus. And so sometimes there actually is a reason, and we don't even, as the designer, know what it was initially when the edit question comes, but then we realize why it happened from our own previous selves that we had forgotten up until that point.
One of my favorites, and can I talk about APG at all?
So we are currently have not released a huge amount of information about Advanced Player's Guide. So
okay,
so we haven't released a lot. So if you type it into the chat the G chat that we have up, I can tell you if it's something that is okay to say because it's been revealed. Because there have been some revelations.
Mark is one of Paizo's resident people who keeps track of what has been said. So I usually just be really careful because I'm not.
Well, I also wrote the solicitation. Oh yeah, people know about that existing.
I could talk about that.
You could talk about the fact that we have that
How
class.
cool it is?
What? Yes.
Okay. I will just say the Oracle class was one of my favorite things that it was super cool.
I think a lot of people are really excited about the Oracle. It was one of players' favorite classes in Pathfinder First Edition, other than the core classes. And so, it's really interesting, and I like Liz's take on it, and I want to see what people think about the final version too.
Mm-hmm. That was the one that got a lot of feedback from the playtesting.
It did. It had a lot of feedback.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, the whole thing. It was a joy to work on, honestly, and we're getting close to. I think we're actually moving at pretty good speed, and we have a new editor coming pretty soon, so our team will be that much stronger.
That's right. You will finally be at capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and then we'll see how long it takes for them to be announced, and then when they are. Then we can see about having them on the show too, so we can keep up with every editor who doesn't specifically not want to be on our show has been on our show.
There we go. I think there might be one who just can't make Thursdays and one who does specifically doesn't want to be on our show.
Yeah, that's right. One who is super busy and one who does not want to be on a show. Yep. But we're trying to open it up to a lot of folks.
Yeah, I'm really excited that you guys are almost done with the APG. We should have like a party with the designers and the editors and the art folks who are on it once it's finally complete.
That'd be cool. You guys should have a party. There should be more parties.
That's true.
There should. I think there should always be more parties.
I mean, I do appreciate the free table and how, like, at least once a week somebody brings in a large quantity of food and sends an email out to everyone as like, here there's a cake, or I baked this giant thing, or here you go, this is another thing I made, or here's a giant bowl of candy, would you like some? And it just materializes.
Yep. I think it's fantastic. Several different people have tried their banana bread recipes, and I'm like, yes, you should all keep making banana bread.
But whose banana bread recipe was the best of the ones you tasted?
I gotta go with John Compton.
I mean, he has done it a lot of years and taken a lot of feedback over the years on his banana bread. I can see how that would really put him at the top of the pack.
That tamarind sauce has a real kick to it. If you haven't tried his tamarind one yet, yeah, that's like super sour and it's really good.
Yeah, and Patrick Reaney tried to emulate it, and Patrick and I have a great, we're always like Patrick, and his sauce on his bread was interesting, is what I will say.
Okay, there you go.
I didn't get a chance to try his. That is the thing, though. When you see that email, even if you're in the middle of something, you should get up and go get yourself a piece. If you wait till the end of the day, it's not going to be there anymore.
That's definitely true.
And I also can I talk about AP at all or any of that?
The APs that have been announced are Extinction Curse is currently coming out, and then Agents of Edgewatch has been announced. But whatever AP is after Agents of Edgewatch has not been announced.
Okay. Well, this is the one before that, the concluding thing with the Extinction Curse. I was just working on that today, and that is...
Yeah, that's been announced, and I think there's a vague description of what happens in that adventure up on the website, but some people may be playing it. But yeah, I took over as design lead from when Steven left on Extinction Curse, and they usually didn't have me look that much into the adventure itself, but they did for like the final thing, and there is some stuff going on.
Yes.
I'm probably going to GM either that or Age of Ashes, depending upon which one my group votes for.
Yeah, my roommate, we've gotten some sci-fi writing group friends. They now are all becoming Pathfinder acolytes.
Uh-huh.
Excellent. Are you playing with them or GMing for them?
Well, the first thing we're doing is my roommate's GMing the goblins, but we kind of did a conversion to 2E for the goblins game, just kind of...
Oh yeah, the Weeby Goblins?
Yeah, Weeby Goblins.
Yep.
And then we're going to switch over to Extinction Curse is the first game I'm going to run with everyone.
Awesome.
I highly recommend checking out the Paizo forums subsection if you're running Adventure Path, because GMs will post a lot of really creative stuff there that they've been doing.
Ooh,
and it is a gold mine, particularly like for Kingmaker, and certain APs have even more support. But
I know there's a prequel fiction for the Extinction Curse on our blog too. Plus, didn't like Jason Tondro post on his Twitter a bunch of like extra circus tricks or something like that?
Yeah, he did. So that's another cool thing to check out. The community is full of resources, and it's really great to tap into.
That's the best part of running an AP overall, is just other people are running it and they figure out cool things to do.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. The people who comment, because I've had those 2 flash fiction pieces out, and the comments that they've left have been so kind. Like, it's like if ever I need a self-esteem boost, I go read the comments on those stories.
That is good. Like, internet comments are very interesting, and I feel like there's got to be a growing field of scientists who study them for sociological reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't even know. But one thing that is definitely true is that people want to post when they want to see changes, or there's something that they want to reinforce that they're not sure about. And I know that fiction has been something we did and then we stopped doing. So now that it's back, when there's great fiction on there, I think people are more likely to post.
Altro is a big fan of the blog fictions.
Okay. Yes, there's all caps. These stories are awesome.
They are so much fun to read. It's just this quick little, hey, here's a story.
Yep.
Get immersed in the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of all caps and positive comments, all from Altura.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I think I don't know if there are plans for it, but I'd be neat if with the Paizo we could. I'd like a dream of we'd one day do our paperback books again.
Yeah, right. It was wild when we were doing it with Tor.
Or at least make them available as ebooks or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those were cool. I'm sure that there were a lot of reasons why it didn't work out, but...
Well, that would be something to talk about at work, and particularly if you have contacts that might be able to help with that.
Ah, yes, that's right.
from your past, but yeah, I can tell you who to chat with.
Okay, yeah, there's actually, there's one, yeah, there's a company, I think, actually, Mark Moreland mentioned them, and I was like, oh yeah, I know people there, so. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, shoot.
Yep.
Alright, cool.
Mm-hmm. Everyone knew it was Mark Moreland.
Steaming. I mean, we can't.
Don't hope too much.
Don't hope too much. Well, I mean, I don't want to shoot down hope, but like, you know, we can try to explore various options, but the fact that it hasn't happened yet indicates that there are some significant challenges. So.
Yep.
That is it's one of the things with book publishing is it's quite an investment, and
oh yeah,
especially for traditional publishing, it so
it's a huge investment. The return is minimal, even if you have a successful product, and that's true for game book publishing too. It's like, it's scary how dangerous a not good seller is to your bottom line, and how little you actually make even from a good seller, because these are like textbook level, very hard to write, and not sold as much as a mass market, and they're being sold for really, really low amounts because that's what the market is used to paying.
We make it work.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is true.
Yep.
I always think that Paizo has a really good ethos about that, though. They make such good things that people can buy, and they try to make it affordable. But then you can get the basic stuff if you need it as a PDF. But and they're like, but if you want this beautiful book with all this art,
Yeah, for the with the Archives of Nethys, and
it's all free, but
free
you
stuff
don't get
on
the
the
art.
OGL. Yeah, exactly. You don't get the art, and you don't get all the cool lore content if you go with the free rules. But that it's to make it more accessible for sure, and because that's the OGL, and that's a lot of the ethos that Paizo came into things as a third party publisher for Dungeons and Dragons. So.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool. That said, everyone watching should all buy all our books all the time.
Yes. Please buy our books. Like I said, if books don't sell as much as you think, it's really bad. Fortunately, yeah, looks like things are going pretty well. Because we're, as Patrick said, we're hiring more people.
Second edition is quite popular.
Yep.
Yeah. It was, it had been a while since I played Pathfinder when I interviewed, and I hadn't played second edition actually yet, and wow, that was fun. Like, yeah, I love the new combat economy. Like,
yeah. It amazes me, that in some ways how quickly second edition just became, this is the new normal. This is the game I work in. This game makes sense. I grok this. This is what I'm working on. And then I go back and look at first edition stuff, and then I'd stumble and get kind of confused and be like, wait, no, hold on. Wait, that doesn't work. I forgot that other piece.
Well, thanks, Patrick and Linda. As one of the creators of second edition, I like hearing that it's easy to pick up and easy to get into.
Compare how many times I bug you about rules questions for second edition to how much I bugged you about rules questions for first edition. It's not that much.
You had a huge amount of experience in first edition.
It's really not that much more often, and a lot of it is like, okay, I want to grok this fundamental systematic thing. Like, here's a subsystem from the Game Mastery Guide. I want to make sure that I fully grok this so that I'm able to implement this well. That's not like, oh crap, this fiddly rule, how does this work with ever? This is knowledge that I then can apply.
Right.
Going forward, so.
Yeah. I mean, to me it seems like, what I like about it is it's intuitive, but also, oh wow, with characters you can just do like anything. It's awesome.
It's all about modularity. It works for programming, and it works for game design too.
I actually, it's funny you say that, because my roommate, he's a high-level programmer. He's worked for some pretty big software companies, and I think there is the Venn diagram of people who love Pathfinder and people who work or love tech, I think is the two circles are pretty overlapping.
Well, it's true. I mean, I was in computer science research at MIT before I came to design at Paizo, so definitely a lot of intentional computer science type stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Everyone has their own path.
Mm-hmm.
Jason was an architect, and his maps, you can tell, they are so good.
Well, what I like to say is it's good that our editors actually generally have an English background, because most of the rest of us just came from somewhere random. It's like I was studying math and education. I was going to be a math teacher.
Yep.
And now I'm a Paizo. So.
Yep. Or like Steven was a philosophy major, and that's why he talked a lot about philosophy and stuff when he was here. John Compton was actually an archaeologist. A
literal archaeologist, which is why the Pathfinder Society is an archaeological organization. When he got on board, had a lot more accuracy in that regard. In terms of things, you had a lot fewer bones that are somehow still in place after 1,000 in wood that are somehow still in place after 1,000 years and things like that. So you just have. Everybody has. That's one of the things I really love about working at Paizo is that people have such a broad base of experience and hobbies and interests and passions that they bring to it, and that's one of the main inspirations for having this interview segment is that no two interviews with Paizo folks are the same, because everybody has this whole thing. Like, you don't have someone who's like, oh, yes, I was born, and when I was born, I said I wanted to be a game editor, and then that was what I wanted to do my entire life, and everything was leading up to that moment. Like, everybody's got their own stuff.
You know what? I think editing for, like, Marvel and Star Wars and stuff before this is actually, like, the most similar of a thing to having been done close before. Although I guess also Jason Kelly's crossword puzzles are pretty similar,
Puzzle design and editing,
Yep.
Which he used to do.
Yep.
You know, the thing is interesting because, I'd work on that stuff, but, like, in my spare time, I'd look up old, like, maps of, like, fantasy villages and, like, D&D or Pathfinder that I'd never heard of. So I just liked reading imaginary travel guides to RPG worlds.
Wow.
Like, since I was a kid, I don't know if you remember the property Talislanta.
I've heard of it. I've seen some things about it, so I remember it, but I'm not deeply familiar.
It was so one of their catchphrases was like they were like, no elves or dwarves, and they just made up all of their races. They were kind of trying to be different, but I read their world book, I think in 4th grade, and like at the time I had no clue how you played the game, but I was just like, this world is awesome. And I think just that kind of, I don't know, learning about what goes on in these worlds, and it's just sort of a way you kind of, I have to actually sometimes not get too lost in the stuff you all make, because I have to be checking words, and there are times when I'm like, nope, I'm enjoying this, I gotta take a break.
You should pitch, like, a product that's like a travel guide from a perspective of a fictional character in the world that you write, or something like that.
That would be fun.
Where you're, like, going to the different places, if that's your passion, is, like, fantasy travel guides. Because I feel like passion products are the ones that you can always tell if the author was very passionate about it.
Or I could see that being like a blog series. Too.
It could be a blog series
so
also.
So it's like web fiction, and you pick like a consistent character, and then there's various things that are from their perspective.
Right. Like, I mean, just to make up the name Hurlpat, since we have it, it's like Volo for D&D, but it's like Hurlpat's Guide to... Yeah, it's like Hurlpat's Guide to Vudra, Hurlpat's Guide to Goka, because Goka is one of the biggest cities anywhere, but there's not like a lot of content about what it's like to go to Goka, so it could be like it could continue showing this character, obviously not actually called Hurlpat, who's doing stuff.
If you have a name that's an obvious Easter egg, the editors will get mad at you, Mark.
Oh.
Hey, Linda, it's not the editors do not get mad about those things. They are just flagging it, Linda. The real people who get mad about it are not them.
Okay, fair enough.
I am very pro Easter egg.
Personally, myself, I don't even consider a lot of the things that we call Easter eggs to be Easter eggs. I consider many of them to be literary allusions or references. To me, an Easter egg is something that's like a hee-hee that you've put in there as like a secret for people to find, whereas if you're actually like the investigator playtest for the Advanced Player's Guide that we put out that had a just one more thing feat, that's not an Easter egg because it's not hidden at all. It's just obviously Columbo. It's a Columbo reference or allusion.
Well, you know what I liked about that was you could say that's public domain because Columbo is based on the investigator from Crime and Punishment who would do the same thing to the main guy.
That's right.
So it's fine.
There you go. Dostoevsky.
It's a very literary reference.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, old school. Or like just the facts. Things like that. Just all sorts of abilities like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of just cultural ubiquity. I don't know. I think it helps a lot of players. Yeah, I don't think it's
I think it helps players get into the fantasy of the class, or whatever you're doing. If you have names that are correctly connected to the sort of archetype that you are trying to have them play in the game, then they're like, oh yeah, this lets me play that character I like, and then they're right in there and they understand what you mean in a way that it might have taken like 2,000 words of explanation otherwise to really show them what you were talking about. So Linda, that's our our long.
One thing if what?
Oh, I was telling Linda that's our long digression to say that her statement might not be accurate.
Nobody types squirrel. It doesn't count as a digression until someone puts in the squirrel.
I'm gonna do it.
Patrick, we have an emoji, which is literally a squirrel, which we encourage people to put in when we're getting into digressions as a celebration of the power of tangents to go to interesting places.
That's right.
So, to change the subject a bit here, though, when I'd asked you before this episode what you would be interested in talking to about. A lot of the things you said were in the same general theme, and then in the middle of the like writing science fiction, working on APs, popular IPs, doing these kinds of things. You also mentioned that you enjoy running long distance. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
That's different.
Yeah, my dad was a track coach, and his team won state in Michigan, like 4 years, different years. One of the years he's holding 1-year-old me in his team's photo. And he's one of 10 siblings, and he even coached some of his younger brothers. And so track and field and cross country was something kind of in the family a little. And I was pretty good in high school. Not like all state, but like, I could run a mile in under 5 minutes. And I always, in college I put on the freshman 15, but I'd still run, a little bit just to kind of try to stay in shape. And then I noticed by the time I was 26 that, oh wait, not running regularly might have a bad effect on my. All of a sudden, I'm carrying more weight. So I did the Chicago Marathon.
Oh wow!
And then I
did a marathon. It's just a casual thing.
I have a little more weight, so I did a marathon.
Yeah, there's something. So running a marathon, I ran Chicago 4 times. Last time I did it, I was 32. And it's something. A lot of times you do almost have to think like, as you're going, like, okay, I am 16 miles of 26. That means I'm over 50% done. How am I feeling? Like, there's a lot of like planning and also just sort of, I don't know, mentally gaming and thinking about things, and also kind of checking in on your endurance. And it teaches you to do things in increments, to train like slowly build up from running 5 miles a week to 7 miles a week to 10, and then like take a rest week, and then 12 miles in a week, and then, you know, further and further. And I don't know. It's the funny thing is I actually think the healthiest long distance you can run is a half marathon, and that's tough, but like you could walk around afterward.
Right.
A full marathon, there's always a point when I run it where I like, I don't know if this is good for me.
You know, I've heard the same thing from other marathon runners, that a half marathon feels like the healthiest, and the marathon always is like this. Maybe not the best. I mean, the historical precedent was, the original guy died after running the marathon to get the message. So.
Yeah, and there's definitely a point where you're like, oh yeah, remember how that first one who ever did this died? And you're like, oh god, why did I think that?
You know, Ron Lundine's into running too. I don't know if you ever talked to him about that, but.
Oh, Ron Lundine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool, yeah. Yeah, I've actually thought about starting like a little running club here, just because, you know, there's kind of locker room stuff or something that might be. I haven't been able to. I don't know if there are any trails around the office, but
I'm sure there are. Marymore Park is
Marymore
close to
Park,
the office.
yeah, just to the south. It's closed right now because of coronavirus stuff I saw, but once that's clear, then that'll be at least some of the camp houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of pretty trails out that way.
Yep.
That's one of the interesting things about this show too. Is that's just like, oh yeah, by the way, this other person also has this hobby in the office.
They're 3 rock climbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we did not know there were 3 rock climbers. And they didn't.
Oh, I was gonna say Patrick Rainey. Like when he found out I worked at Great Books and did book discussions, he's like, "Do you want to join the Paizo book discussion group?" And I'm like, "Absolutely."
Then there are 2 Patricks there.
Yes.
What?
And then there are 2 Patricks in the same group.
Yes, Patrick Hurley and Patrick Rainey, and our last names sound a bit the same.
What do you think, Patrick? I agree, Patrick. Very astute, Patrick. Your analysis is spot on, Patrick.
Well, I used to have long hair like he does.
Oh, wow. It could be even more similar.
But you never worked on a coffee farm, right?
Although he what?
You never worked on a coffee farm, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, so you're not exactly the same person.
No.
Good.
Okay. or like nature photography.
Yeah.
There we go. So, wait, you said that your dad had 9 other siblings. So, are the family reunions really gigantic?
Well, so my dad had, and then he had 10 siblings, actually.
Oh,
and,
so he's one of 11.
My mom she's the oldest of 9.
Whoa.
So, I have,
Well,
I have a giant family. The reunions are huge. My Uncle Mick married my Aunt Seijio in Japan, so I have Japanese cousins, Koji, Kyoko, and Joe Hurley. I have cousins in France. We have family all over.
That's awesome.
Taking over the world.
Yeah, I just told I jokingly told my parents they come from Irish Catholic rabbits. So.
I mean, gosh, you have 20 aunts and uncles, so that would mean that if all of them had the same number of kids, then just your first cousins would be a lot.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and I actually, speaking of that, I brought in one of my cousins on Monday.
I remember.
Yeah, I remember.
I just didn't know it was one of potentially 400.
And you called him your little cousin, and then he was in college, so that was... Because you said little cousin at first, I was thinking, oh, he's bringing a kid around, that's cute. And that's like, oh, yeah, that's not a kid.
Oh, he's 20 years old.
Yeah.
That's pretty young by the standards of The Office.
No, it's still pretty young, but...
Right?
But it just made me think about it with families, you know.
By the way, loved it.
Great.
I'm glad he enjoyed it. It's always fun giving people office tours.
Oh, sorry, what?
I said it's always fun giving people office tours.
Oh, yeah. I think he thinks we work in this, like, heaven of, like, all the fun, geeky things that you could do. He was just like, is this where you are every day? You can do this for a living?
It's a real job.
It is.
It has its hard times.
Yes.
Yes.
I told him, you know, any career is going to be ups and downs. So.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we get to work with some pretty awesome people, so.
That's true. Like you.
Well, thank you. No, it was neat. His buddies all play Pathfinder, so they all were jealous.
So did he know, like, who any of us were before that? Because a lot of people who play don't read the names of the people on the books.
No, he knew the iconics. Like, he knew the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I don't know Jason Bowman, but Valoros, like, yes.
People behind... But he knew who, like, the bro fighter.
Valoros.
He always has a sword and a dagger.
Wait, sword and a dagger?
Yeah.
Sword, Valoros.
Valoros is the iconic fighter.
He knew, okay, yeah. And then he knew Maricel, and Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
Because he identifies when he plays, he likes to be a wizard. So
wizards are pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I like to play either a thief or a bard.
Well, I guess in any game with all of the editors, you'd have to play bard because Judy is always the rogue. Always.
Although, the first game I played with her, she was a goblin barbarian.
Oh, wow.
It was glorious.
I think, like, Judy is one of the editors I've played with or seen playing the most, and she's always been a rogue.
Pretty much stopped
I guess people can also play classes that aren't their favorite from time to time.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, I think we played one that Leo Glass wrote. It was one of the OP. And,
Unforgiving.
Yeah, Judy's goblin split someone in half.
Oh, man.
The second quest, Unforgiving Flame? Or Unforgiving Fire?
Did it have
I can never remember which one
monks and fire and some kind of...
Yes, it was that one then. It was between fire and flame for such a long time.
The martial arts tournament.
And you split someone in half at the tournament? Was that, like, allowed by the rules?
It was kind of like we were testing our skills to try to infiltrate the group, and then they realized that a fight broke out, but they were starting to surrender, and it was like Judy's, I think it was a goblin, just all of a sudden rolled a crit, and she was like, describe it. She's like, my goblin splits them in half.
Oh, that's split in half. Yeah. So you were the group he play tested with, I think, or maybe one of the ones he ran after. I don't know.
I think it was out already, and it was actually just because Kieran and I were new editors, so they're like, oh, let's play some games just so you kind of get, also to have fun, but just to kind of get more experience with the rules and things, and because we knew them, but it's always good to play because sometimes it's just the more it's fun to play, and also like the more regularly you do it, the more you kind of have an eye for how readers will understand things.
Pathfinder Society Quests, 1 hour adventures. They're a great way to introduce new people to the game.
Yep.
Not forgot that Linda's the organized play lead developer.
And mandatory pitch. I mean, it's not actually mandatory.
Well,
I just enjoy promoting our stuff, honestly, because I'm really proud of it.
No, it's super fun. What I love about the organized play is just the interesting variety of adventures. It's not just let's kill things. I mean, there can be that, but there's always interesting ways you can resolve your quests.
Well, if you ever want to write an organized play adventure, let me know. I am the one to talk. No pressure, no pressure.
Quests are pretty short, you know. You can get started with a quest.
I'm not gonna have this conversation on air, but
but you just did.
Well, no, but I mean, like, I'm not gonna be like all the details and like pressure you or whatever. I have to, if at any time you decide you want to, you know where I sit.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's true.
It's wherever all the bats and leshies are.
It's next to the wall of Leshy pictures and the shelf of plushies. And the giant piles of books and papers that I never clean up as often as I should because I'm always in the middle of something.
I was gonna ask, do you all have someone's cube who's like your favorite with their decorations?
Well, mine is my favorite because I surround it with my favorite because I fill my cube with my favorite things. But other people have a lot of awesome things. I like Rob's collection of little different minis and action figures and amiibos and the way that it just kind of all flows together. I like, and then there's also certain pieces that I like Eleanor's blepping axolotl plushie, and Adam's bat that hangs from the ceiling, and tiny mantis plushie that looks like it's going tee-hee-hee all the time. It's definitely worth, and also, who could forget Ron's whiteboard with a rotating cast of sweet messages from his adorable children. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff if you look around at what people decorate their cubes with.
It's true.
I
think I like Lou Pelazar's cubicle with all the stuffed Pokemon. That's one of my favorites. I'm not gonna pick a favorite, but that's one.
You like his stuffed Pokemon the best. Linda has a stuffed Pokemon now too, thanks to Eleanor.
Yeah, Eleanor got me a Pumpkaboo.
Since it has a bat on top of Leshy type thing.
It makes me happy. It's the newest addition to my collection.
Yeah.
I like what Eleanor's description of it is a Leshy Dompier.
Yeah, Leshy with the Dompier heritage.
Yes.
How else are you going to describe it, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Wow, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dampier, another, by the way, I'd never read this, I never saw the stats for Dampiers before. So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've announced there in the Advanced Player's Guide, so...
Okay, I was like, wait, did I say too much?
No, it's okay. No. We've announced all of the new versatile heritages, all the new ancestries, and all the new classes, as well as a small sprinkling of other things that are on the product
I wouldn't have said Dompier heritage if it had not been announced.
Okay.
But yes.
Yeah, that one was fascinating to read about. I was very like, who would I make into a Dampier?
It's gonna be cool. I'm looking forward to the APG coming out.
Woo!
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we kept you a lot later than we thought because we started it later than we thought.
And we still kept you over an hour.
Yep.
So, was there anything else you wanted to talk about, Patrick?
Let me think. No, I'm good. You know. I just had a story come out in Aurealis magazine today. It's an Australian magazine.
Is that Borealis? Like the Aurora?
Yeah. Aurealis.
Urealis magazine.
Like gold.
And what's the story called?
What?
Oh, I see. Patrick Hurley has fiction published in
Aurealis 128.
Aurealis 128. All right.
Has Catlipoca, the Aztec deity.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, it takes place
Linkified.
in an Arizona prison.
Linda beat me to it.
Aha! I beat you in Promotional Link Initiative. Check it out, folks.
And then I had the Starfinder Flash just come out on Wednesday. It's called Thoughts in the Dark.
Oh, I'm glad you're writing those. I hadn't seen yours yet.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, that'd be it.
Sounds
Still
good.
Pretty good.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Patrick.
Oh, there's Thoughts in the Dark. Hold on, I'll link that too.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. This is a blast.
Absolutely.
Glad to have you. Have a great night.
All right, let's say bye to
thanks,
YouTube,
YouTube,
everyone. Bye, YouTube.
Bye,
See you next time.
YouTube.